In the last gray light of a winter afternoon, a trail camera in Michigan's Upper Peninsula caught something its owner never expected. It had been set for deer. Instead, it recorded a full-grown cougar moving along a snow-covered trail, and behind her, two cubs stepping in her tracks. That single image changed what wildlife officials thought they knew about an animal Michigan had supposedly lost for good, over a century ago. Here's the strange part. According to every official record, this shouldn't have been possible. Not a passing cougar, a mother, cubs, a family. To understand why that photo stopped biologists cold, we have to go back to the silence. Before we go further, if stories like this, wild animals defying everything we thought we understood, are your kind of thing, hit subscribe now. This one is far from over. Alright, back to the snow. Mountain lions once ranged across the entire state, the same animal known elsewhere as puma, panther, or catamount. Then, like almost everywhere east of the Rockies, they were hunted, trapped, and poisoned out of existence by settlers who feared for their livestock and their children. The last confirmed wild cougar killed in Michigan was taken near Newberry in 1906. After that, nothing official, for roughly 100 years. There were stories, of course, a shape at the tree line, a track in the mud, a scream in the night. Wildlife agencies filed them under unconfirmed, right next to lake monsters, a skepticism that had been earned since nearly every eastern cougar sighting for a century turned out to be a house cat, a dog, or a trick of shadow. So when Michigan's DNR finally built a system to sort fact from legend, they built it around hard proof, clear photos, video, tracks, or DNA. The count that began climbing after 2008 isn't a tally of belief. It's a record of what could no longer be explained away. That absence looked so total that in 2018, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service delisted the eastern cougar from the endangered species list, not because it had recovered, but because it was gone. The last confirmed wild cougar in the eastern U.S. outside Florida had been killed near the Maine-Quebec border back in 1938. That ruling was barely 7 years old when a Michigan trail camera photographed a mother leading two cubs through the snow, because the silence had already broken quietly, a decade earlier. In 2008, the DNR confirmed cougar tracks in the UP, then two more sightings that same year, the first hard evidence in a century. The number crept upward from there, 20 confirmed sightings in 2024, then 31 in 2025, the most since the species was wiped out. By mid-2026, 13 more had already been confirmed, all in the north. In 18 years, the Lower Peninsula has produced exactly one confirmed sighting. Now, if you think that's strange, stay with me, because this is just the setup. What comes next is the part that actually broke the science, and it only gets stranger from here. Stick around till the end, because the biggest twist hasn't started yet. For over a decade, science had a tidy explanation, and it held up. These weren't survivors of a hidden local population. They were travelers, young males dispersing nearly 900 miles from the nearest breeding stronghold, the Black Hills of South Dakota. When a young male reaches independence, older resident males won't tolerate him, so he leaves, walking for months, with no built-in stopping point, as long as the land ahead stays empty. Proof of just how far that instinct can carry an animal arrived in 2011, when a young male cougar was struck by an SUV in Milford, Connecticut, the first confirmed cougar there in over a century. DNA traced him straight back to the Black Hills, over 1,500 miles in a straight line, likely closer to 2,000 along his real route, the longest dispersal ever documented for the species. Before reaching New England, that same cougar had passed through Michigan's Upper Peninsula. So a cougar in Michigan was extraordinary but explainable. Lone males walking a long corridor east, most never seen, most never staying. The sightings weren't a population. They were footprints of a migration that kept going. That answer worked, right up until it stopped working. Because a male cougar, no matter how far he walks, cannot produce a cub on his own. Go back to that image from Ontonagon County. Two cubs, nearly a year old. That's not a traveler passing through. That's the signature of a female who'd been there long enough to den and raise young through a northern winter. The DNR didn't hedge. For the first time in over a century, mountain lions had reproduced in Michigan, the first documented cougar reproduction east of the Mississippi, in well over 100 years. Those cubs were first photographed in March 2025. By December, visibly larger, still alive, still together. And this is where the clean explanation falls apart. Female cougars don't behave like males. Biologists call it philopatry. Roughly half of all females never leave their birth range, and those that do rarely go far. The longest dispersal ever recorded for a male was that 1,500-mile line to Connecticut. The longest ever recorded for a female was a fraction of it, a few hundred miles, and even that was treated as remarkable. Only one female had ever been detected east of the Missouri River, not one confirmed east of the Mississippi. Everyone agreed the males could reach Michigan, the females could not. And then, in the snow of Ontonagon County, there were cubs. So how did a female get there? Nobody knows for certain, but there are a few unsettling possibilities. The first, a lone female made that same brutal 900-mile journey and simply survived it. Remarkable, since researchers describe the Midwest corridor as a graveyard for dispersing cougars, where few live past the age of 3. The second is quieter and stranger, that cougars have already been present in the UP longer than the record admits, and rising sightings simply track the arrival of more trail cameras. The DNR now runs over 1,000 cameras there, with millions of images still unreviewed. It's possible this population was already quietly established, and Michigan isn't alone. Around the same years, biologists confirmed cougar reproduction in northern Minnesota too, possibly the first cubs born there in a century as well. The third, and most quickly dismissed, that these are escaped or released captive animals, the old go-to explanation. But every DNA sample recovered so far has come back wild and Western. For now, the answer sits unread. The mother and her cubs vanished from the cameras after December, back into the country that hid them the first time. What the DNR will say plainly is what it doesn't know. No population estimate, no certainty whether these animals are settling or just passing through, though it now suspects at least one family isn't passing through at all. To be clear, nobody wants people afraid. A cougar attack in the UP remains extraordinarily rare. The DNR's own specialists note the morning commute is statistically far more dangerous. This isn't a predator lurking at the edge of town. It's an apex predator the state spent a century erasing, quietly finding its way back on foot, across 900 miles, without anyone fully understanding how. And that return might matter more than it first appears. An apex predator doesn't just occupy a landscape, it reshapes it, keeping deer populations in check. One modeling study on restored eastern cougars projected that over 3 decades, thinned deer numbers could cut deer vehicle collisions by more than a fifth, potentially preventing over 150 human deaths and billions in damage, which turns one female in the snow from a curiosity into something with real weight. Is she a fluke, or the leading edge of a return nobody planned and nobody fully understands? For now, the cougar remains on Michigan's endangered species list, protected even from active searching, since too much pressure could cause a mother to abandon her den, so the watching continues from a distance. 1,000 cameras in the trees, millions of images still unseen, a map of sightings that grows one dot at a time, never quite adding up to a complete answer. What we do know, the forest is bigger than the cameras watching it. A young male can walk 2,000 miles and die on a road 1,000 miles from where he was born. And somewhere north of a line, these animals were never supposed to cross again. A female that isn't supposed to exist is teaching 2 cubs, right now, how to move through the world without being seen. Nobody can explain how she got there. But the record is clear on one thing. She's already raising the ones who come next.